VA programs. It's if you have the money to pay for this special therapy that private companies are creating and using, but the VA isn't.
The VA is not giving it out to the veterans. You have to go pay for it yourself.
Right, which it didn't sound like he could support.
No.
In my opinion. So okay, moving on here too. One of the most interesting things that was said in this entire thing, in my opinion, none of the locals around Coffee House heard the standoff.
Nobody heard anything.
Heard nothing.
They heard a single shot when they shot Brent Kopacka.
And that's it.
That's insane. What?
And you know what's interesting too is
so he never shot.
In some of the footage that we have from the FOIA, it shows the cop calling one of the residents and saying, "Hey, I need to get in there to get a bullet."
Yep.
A bullet.
Yeah. Okay. So the situation involves, a resident that lived across the way from you, and there was firearms that were shot. A bullet has went into your apartment. We actually got a code, went into your apartment just to make sure to clear that nobody was hurt. So we walked in there, we body cameraed it, went in there, found that nobody was hurt, and then we left. What the reason for this phone call is we're conducting, the crime scene evidence collection, and so I was hoping that I could get your verbal permission for us to enter there, get consent to search. What they're going to do is they're basically going to go in there, take pictures of the affected areas, and then probably remove a bullet fragment. It looks like it went through the wall and it landed in your one of your kitchen cabinet doors. We are looking for no other evidence other than the evidence related to, a stray bullet.
Singular. A bullet. Okay, where are the others?
Is that the bullet that you shot Brent with? Like, where is that bullet coming from? Like, what is that? What is up with that? How come
where's the bullets that Brent shot? Is what we're being told.
I don't think they're the only people that said they only heard a single shot. I believe many people said that, even in other body cam footages. And another interesting thing she said is that she thought Brent planned this, that he thought he was going to be killed by the cops.
Yep. From 2 days earlier, he left her a voice message saying, that he thought that it's possible, or he saw something, in a memory, dream, whatever, that he was going to be ended by cops. So premeditated, I don't know.
Is it premeditated, or is it like a premonition type thing? It's something his subconscious is telling him that he's not picking up on consciously at that time. Like, what?
I don't know if it could be premeditated, because again, you guys, like, he didn't have anyone in there with him.
Right.
Nobody. He was by himself.
Right.
They never should have shot. No. In my opinion.
They shouldn't have.
Never.
I agree.
Ever.
He was in there alone, barricaded. I never saw a barricade.
Yeah.
What if that whole standoff was a show and they killed him like right in the beginning or something? Like, I don't know. It's so weird. It truly is a really strange situation. Really would be curious to hear the prosecutor's explanation of why he thought the shot was justified, because they didn't really give a great explanation.
I agree. It's a very strange situation. I don't understand it. I think there are a couple injustices going on here in this situation, and I really want to know what you guys think about it. Was this audio as eye-opening for you as it was for me? Because for me, it was, the couple things in there had me like, whoa.
Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy interview. It blew my mind when I heard it. It's pretty clarifying in a lot of ways, but in other ways, it just raises a million more questions, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I'm
And it makes you
curious.
feel really bad for this guy. Like,
Oh, awful. Absolutely awful.
But-
I don't think it's okay to activate someone in the military the way that they do and then not deactivate them when they're coming home. I do not think that's okay, man.
right. And so many people have questioned if there's like a co-defendant. I don't know if you could even go down that route with Kopacka, because I don't think he could plan this in tandem with somebody else, to be honest.
Maybe
You think he could?
I don't know how I feel about that, but there's this idea out there. There's this story, which I don't think is true at all, but they were like, so the story is that Brent and Bryan were together in a car, and this whole thing started at 1122 when Brent got out to like peep in the window. And when after looking at all this and then hearing that, I'm like, dude, this guy can barely keep himself together. But then we're thinking that he's gonna go like peeping on people in some weird fashion. I just don't see that. I don't see it.
No, there's no way he could be like premeditated serial killer. I don't think there's anything. There's no way. It doesn't seem that way. The way the state he's in, I don't think that's possible.
It doesn't feel that way.
No, I think the only possible scenario is a PTSD hallucination,
He activated
delusion.
himself.
He got activated in some way. That's the only way this could even be possible. And in that situation, that's a stretch because we don't have any evidence saying he was even in that area that night.
Correct. Yep.
So it's
absolutely.
literally just a question.
I sure hope the cops do, though.
I hope they have those answers too.
Because that cell phone of his needs to be data dumped, triangulated, and
dude, he did a factory reset. But look,
well, we don't know who did it, but yeah, it was factory reset.
The Matty Soto case, that guy did a factory reset conveniently the day Matty Soto went missing. They got all of those images back.
Yep.
And he's in there with 60 charges of abusing a minor and photos of it.
Yeah.
And he did a factory reset on his phone. So,
correct.
I mean, I hope they went through it. I hope they got the information.
It doesn't sound like it, but
it doesn't sound like it.
Gonna cross my fingers and hope just in case, but it doesn't feel like it.
No,
because they left the phone there on the counter for a friend to find. So
exactly.
Nobody took it to the computers and to the systems that's required to pull that information. But let me know, us know how you feel about it, what you thought about the audio. Is it something you heard? Has another creator covered these audios?
Not that I've heard. Not that I've heard.
Well, I found it interesting. I thought it was eye-opening, and let me know how you feel about it. Is this thing on? All right. Hello. I was giving everybody a little bit of time to get over here. Welcome, everybody, to the True Crime Talk Show, brought to you by Thought Riot Podcast. My name's Brendan. Welcome to the show. You can find us on every major podcast platform, literally all of them. So this last week, I don't know why our 33rd episode number 33, was delayed on Spotify, but it was delayed like 12 hours or 20 hours or something like that. But it is up. It is here. As you can see, you can find us on 2 different channels. We are Thought Riot, the True Crime and Criminal Culture podcast, and we are the True Crime Talk Show, where you can find all of the episodes that we are recording and talking on right here. I believe Malia is on her way over here and should be here any minute now. But make sure you check out all of our social media. Every social media platform we are on, all of them. Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, we got a Discord. We are on everything. If it's there, we are on it. I believe we're on Substack. We are on Substack. I wrote something on there. And for anybody that doesn't already know, Discord is free, completely free, and we will never charge you on Discord. And essentially it is like a chat. It's almost like, you guys remember those AOL Instant Messenger days? That's like what it is, but it requires an invite. You can't come in there without that invite that I just posted. So hit that invite and come hang out in Discord. It's a good time. We have an audio channel where we talk to people, and there's also a chat channel as well, and it's a good time. I think I hear Malia in the studio. So what we just got done watching, right? We just got done watching a Brent Kopacka deep dive into one of his associations in the area. That whole interview is strange, in my opinion. If you're one of our live fans, the people who watch the True Crime Talk Show but don't watch the pre-recorded content, I would go listen to that. You know, I'm not. It's too hard to explain it being strange. There's a couple really strange parts in there, which I'll wait till Malia gets up here to get into. But it's an interview with a couple that is from the Washington area. And according to them, right, this is based off of what they said, they open their home up to locals, to hangarounds. It kind of reminds me of my biker hangout days when I was way younger and a troublemaker, and I used to hang out with bikers. There were like hangarounds, and it was kind of open to the area as long as you were willing to, you know, play rough. But really strange situation. Really strange situation. Brent Kopacka has been one of the main topics and or questions in the Idaho 4 case in the community. So the only time you've ever heard mainstream media talk about Brent Kopacka is when it's being talked about in a way that they, I was not in a biker club. Once you're in, you're not getting out. I was never in one. But the way that mainstream media have talked about Brent Kopacka within the true crime community is only putting people down, right? They said, I've seen stories where they're like, hey, the true crime community or online sleuths are obsessing and attacking this man, Brent Kopacka, who is a hero to our country. Well, they got one thing right. He is a hero. He absolutely gave his life. And that absolutely does not mean there can't be questions around where he was at certain times and things like that. You know, we talked about the fact that, look, if something were to come up one day where Brent Kopacka was proven to be involved, how much would he personally be to blame? You know, how much would he personally be to blame? Because based off everything I'm seeing and or hearing of Brent Kopacka, The guy could barely take care of himself, and that is extremely, extremely, extremely sad. I feel really bad for him. I don't think that's fair. I look at his story and his background and his past, and I firmly believe he gave his life for his country. When he got shipped over on his 2 tours to I think he said Iraq. I forget right now. It's either Iraq or Afghanistan. He never came home, you guys. He never came home. He got shipped over there, hit an IED in a Humvee, had TBI, got PTSD from it, and Brent Kopacka never came home. He was forever emotionally and mentally left over there in that horribly traumatic situation. And I try and always start the conversation on Brent Kopacka around that, because there is a certain level of respect that is deserved, right? And there are people out there that feel comfortable and confident judging and or putting down the military, but the thing is, I'm not one of those people, for one, and for two, soldiers don't make decisions, okay? Soldiers are there to take orders. So if our country and or military is doing things that we don't agree with, the soldiers are never to blame. You don't get a say. There's a chain of command. That chain of command makes the decisions what you're going to do. And that's what I see in this situation right here. So I do not ever want my opinions to be taken the wrong way when we're talking about this. All right. I never, never, never want our opinions or questions to be taken offensively.
Definitely. Because this is a very sensitive topic. And sorry I'm late. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, it is a sensitive topic. However,
it's incredibly sensitive.
However, I don't think there's this idea out there, right? And I think one thing that Thought Riot Podcast does really good is we can tread the water of the tough subjects really good. I think that's one of our strengths as a show. And this is one of those topics. So we'll dig into it the best we can. I do want to make it very clear for our viewers that are out there. Look, just because he's a hero doesn't mean that we can't ask questions. We can, but we have to do that respectfully. We have to. There is no other way. We should be able to talk about any topic respectfully, right? Because objectivity, it doesn't take into account respect or disrespect. That it just doesn't exist, right? We're just here to look at the raw objective data and or facts. And this interview brought weird questions. Very weird questions.
I definitely had a lot of weird questions after watching it.
So before we dig into Brent,
listening to it,
before we dig into Brent Kopacka specifically, look, I've listened to that interview now probably a dozen times, right? We got this FOIA information like a long time ago. But another content creator was covering it, Truth and Transparency, and she did a deep dive into literally every aspect of it. And she did really good. It's really, really good. So we didn't want to be covering the same thing at the same time. We figured we'd come back to it, and this is that. But through the 12 times, through the dozen times that I've listened to this, you guys, the people giving the interview they make me feel strange. I don't know if you guys felt that, but the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, wait, what? You have a couple here that has kids that lets anybody into their house, and they have a large group of people that are hang-arounds that they just happen to pick up, like they collect people like stray animals. that's how I feel with that. It's a really strange situation. They could be a couple of hippies, right? And they're just willing to share everything they have with everyone. But it's still important to highlight the fact that's uncommon.
So I personally, we're not going to put these people's names out there. They haven't come out wanting to talk to the public or anything. But I did look into them, and they don't seem super hippie-ish. But they seem of like, they're not super rich, okay? They have a family. It's a family home, family life. Like, that's what they do. Like, that's how they live. That, mom and dad work, bring home money, family. That's it. That's really all I see. I wanted to see, are they involved in some kind of outreach program? Like, is that why they know Kopacka? Is that why they were trying to help him? I could find nothing even related to that.
That's
which is odd to me. So it made me wonder, are they using together?
I have no idea.
Are they using drugs together? And that's how he knows them. I don't know. There's really no confirmation of either. Anything I saw about them or learned about them, it didn't look like they were using. But that's, some people are pretty good at hiding it. Some people don't just broadcast that to the world.
Yeah.
Or they
Which is another reason why
they could
strange.
be in some kind of outreach thing where they try to help people that are on the streets. Which, if they are, that's amazing.
Yeah. No, I
agree.
The
point is I couldn't find out.
Listen, asking questions isn't meant to be offensive. It doesn't mean that there's an actual problem there. It just means that, hey, I'm seeing something that is outside of what we would expect the average person to do in our current society. And a family with kids picking up people, like I said, stray people, right? That's how it felt to me when they were describing it. That's just the connection my brain made when they were describing it. And they know them enough to know that they're using, and they know them enough to know quite a bit. And then there was another comment made in there where she was like, the big group of people we have just embraced Kopacka when we introduced them. I was like, that's weird. What?
Yeah.
You guys have like monthly get-togethers where you hold hands and just like kumbaya?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just strange. And yeah, they could be a hippie couple, you guys. I want to be very clear. I'm not suggesting something bad. I was just like, I wouldn't do that.
They could be kind of hippie-ish. They could be, but it seems like they definitely could be. But I don't think that's why they know Kopacka. I think it has to be either a drug situation or they're part of some kind of group, some kind of group that
I mean, they did very clearly say that,
AA, NA.
We live by this church, and at churches, there tends to be AA, there tends to be NA, there tends to be outreach.
Group meetings,
Yeah. So that's a good call out. Maybe that is it. Maybe we're looking at it way wrong. Maybe they're in recovery. Maybe, there could be something like that to it. That's a really good call out.
So from everything I've seen, that would make the most sense to me. From everything I've learned about this couple, that would make the most sense, because they do seem to be really good parents. They seem like their family has a stable home life, which is an indicator that they are not, using. Now I have seen couples that use and still maintain a home. But they don't appear to be, to me personally.
Sure.
Their kids seem healthy and are doing everything. They're involved in their kids' lives and doing things for their kids, like, taking things to school, like for holidays, like, baking, making things. Like I've even seen things like that. So it does seem like they're like healthy, not using. So the church thing, yeah, that makes sense to me. It makes me think that they were in some kind of group or outreach with the church.
Sure.
Now, one thing I want to mention is I feel like this interview is really good for actually knowing what was going on with Brent currently. So Darren Duncan has done numerous interviews talking about Brent Kopacka. And while those are valuable, the most valuable one I watched was his interview with Melissa Jade. It's valuable, but Darren Duncan didn't really know Brent at the time he passed away. He hadn't seen him for like 9 years.
Yeah. So
He
you
had
guys,
not seen him for 9 years.
I
They grew
don't.
up together.
Yeah, I don't want to assume everyone knows who Darren Duncan is. It is
I was going to
somebody.
explain. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I said they didn't know. They grew up together back in Illinois. And he knew him from about like 15 years old, I think he said, and up. And Darren Duncan became known online because he posted a picture to Facebook of him sticking a machete that used to be Brent's that they would use when Brent and him used to live together. He stuck it in a bar stool and posted a picture, and it had a little piece of thing, like tied to it, and serial killer movie type horror movie memorabilia behind it, and it became a big thing because people started making connections like to the Idaho 4 case and to Brent, and Darren was like his best friend growing up.
He was his best friend growing up, and Darren Duncan
Since
was the
teenage
most
years.
outspoken friend from Brent Kopacka's
the only one.
past. He came out and was actively like trying to say, hey guys, there is no connection to the Idaho 4. What these people are saying is not true, and actively fighting this narrative. Now,
and literally speaking for his family too, because his family does not want to speak.
Yeah, and understand there's emotional involvement in the relationship because that was his best friend growing up. I do think it's important that we highlight the fact that he didn't know him. I think he hadn't seen him for what, 7 years, you said?
7 to 9 years. I can't remember. It's either 7 or 9. I don't know why my brain is I think it was 7 or 9.
Yeah. So
around in that ballpark.
So even though he felt an emotional bond and or connection, it's a lot different from having someone that you see every day or on a weekly basis versus somebody that you grew up with. You know, I personally have been in a situation where I had somebody that I literally grew up with my whole life past. And it's very different than somebody that you have a current connection with right now. So it's interesting. It's interesting. And I think the fact that they didn't see each other and or have a connection there for at least 7 years further supports the fact that that little picture or whatever with the blue, what people thought looked similarly to Buddy's collar around it. Look, they hadn't seen each other, so I don't believe there's any connection there because they never saw each other.
They hadn't seen each other in almost a decade.
Yep.
There's
so
no
how
connection.
Would they have got that collar over there? They wouldn't have. So,
and I wanted to say in the interview, you hear the couple say that Darren, his friend Darren and Heather were over at the apartment and that there was some uncomfortability there to where they left. Well, when I heard Darren, I was like, Darren and his wife. I was like, are they talking about Darren Duncan? So I looked into it. Darren's wife's name is not Heather. So that's definitely not Darren Duncan. Like, what a coincidence that Darren, another guy named Darren, was one of his friends and at the apartment in this time period.
Darren.
Really weird coincidence, but
I believe this is Darren.
It's definitely not Darren Duncan.
This isn't?
No, that one is. I'm talking about in the audio,
right.
There is a part where a Darren and his wife Heather is mentioned they went to the apartment and were really uncomfortable with the roommates. But I looked into it and Darren's wife's name isn't Heather, so that was not Darren Duncan.
Yeah. So Darren Duncan was on T-Rev's channel when all this stuff was going on back in the day. Now, here's another interesting thing. I have one more interesting thing about the couple. So about 3/4 through the interview, when you guys go back and listen to it, you'll probably want to listen to that interview again after we touch on some of the topics that we thought were weird. He says to the cop, the man does, the cop thanks him for coming down to have a conversation with him. And then he says, I'm sorry for, the cop interrupts him. But what he's saying is, sorry for how our first conversation went, which again made me feel weird, right? You have this group of people, a police officer calls them. Your initial reaction is to be confrontational towards the police officer. But then in a controlled situation where you're going to the interview, you seem as nice as can be. It just made me feel a little bit strange. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. So, like, I don't know about you guys, but when cops call me, I am not confrontational. Maybe most people are. I have no idea. But when a cop calls me, I am going to treat them in the same way that I treat anybody, just with respect, you know? So why they didn't, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. But anyway, so you want to get into the actual interview or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We can start with the first things that we talked about in there and I guess work down. I know people have already been talking about, and we probably should touch on again, the sexual advances that they're claiming happened by his roommates. Now, a few people asked, yes, the roommates were male, you guys. They were male. Both of them. They're men. And there are interviews by body cam and audio interviews of these roommates. I have a hard time just taking this at face value, you guys, right? I've never in my life been in a situation or seen a situation where somebody is literally like trying to force and or coerce you into being sexually involved with them. That is a strange concept. That's not how human beings work. Human beings like being wanted. So, you know, it takes a very specific and or rare person for someone to actively be like, yo, I'm not interested. And then the other person say, I don't care. I'm going to get you anyways, which is how this is portrayed, you guys. This is how it's portrayed, that he couldn't be at his apartment because all his roommates did is aggressively pursue him sexually. And he has PTSD. He has TBI. He was using substances, mind-altering substances. I tend to feel like it might not be as severe as they presented, but I don't know for sure.
What's not as severe? His mental health condition?
What? No, the sexual advances of the roommates.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I agree with you. I think there's a possibility that his mental state could have really been blowing maybe a little bit of flirtatious behavior and partying that may have nothing to do with him out of the water. Like it could have been making it seem like such a thing that it just wasn't. But who knows?
I agree.
I don't know. I'm questioning why Brent even moved in, like with them.
Well, there's a couple. There were a couple light comment. By light comment, I mean they made comments in passing. Okay. If you re-listen to that interview, there's a part in there where she, the woman, says that he was getting in college or in college. So I believe he was in college part-time or joining college to be in there part-time. Otherwise, I don't believe he would have got the help to be in that apartment. Okay. These kids were much younger than him. He was in his 30s and, you know, attempting to go back to college. So I think maybe that could be the connection that a lot of people are looking for. It makes the most sense. It's the most reasonable.
With the state of
when
mind he's in, why would you attempt to go back to college?
I don't know.
Like he needed
look,
needed inpatient help. Like he needed to go in to a hospital.
Listen, I think there's more to this story, okay? And it's part of the reason why I'm covering it. If I would have heard this story, the exact story that we're hearing with Brent Kopacka and the Idaho 4 and everything else, if Brent Kopacka would have just came back from war in the last year or 2 years and I saw this situation, I'd be like, oh man, it makes sense. Like I can connect the dots. You guys, he's been back and functioning and having his own apartments, and he had a car until recently, and jobs and work and who knows what for 15 years.
Right. So like what's going on?
So I've had PTSD, you guys, not severe, nothing
like a soldier,
like this, yes, where I couldn't control it, but it impacted my sleep. It affected, you know, certain stressful situations. And I've got to tell you, without seeing a therapist or a psychologist or medication or anything like that, it got better as time went on. That doesn't necessarily mean everyone works like that, but mine got better as time went on. So he's 15 years back. Why did what sparked this man's life to cause over a decade of being back? A situation that caused him to want to.
Well, because you would think if he was this out of it for 15 years, he wouldn't be trying to go back to school. He would
agree.
He would be like way worse off, it would seem, if he was like this for 15 years. Like, what triggered him to start using dope? What triggered him? Because obviously what he was using, methamphetamine, is it's a trip. Like it can really make people paranoid. It can bring out all kinds of psychotic behavior.
It brings the worst out of people.
But what trigger it does, it brings
really?
out definitely the worst.
Yep.
But what triggered him using it, like in his life? Because usually if you're successful or you got your stuff together, you're not going to just start using out of nowhere. Like something's got to happen for you to like just suddenly become an addict.
Yeah, and here's another interesting thing too, because it's along those lines, right? In order to be an addict, you've got to be able to have money, okay? Brent Kopacka was paying for an apartment, and we know he was on the lease. He wasn't just couch surfing because he filed complaints with the landlord. You cannot go file complaints if you're not on the lease, you guys.
Well, those people even said he got it through the coup. I mean, that's the landlord company.
Yep. We know that he was using dope. That is expensive. We know that he was staying at hotels 5 days a week. 5 days a week. Can you support that lifestyle? I don't know if I could.
Paying for an apartment and a hotel 5 days a week.
Paying for an apartment, paying for a hotel 5 days a week, and a dope problem.
Right.
Food. I mean,
well, if you're doing dope, you don't need that much food, I guess.
You still eat. You still go through come down times and need to binge and things like that. Like there is a large amount of money still spent on food. And the fact that you're not buying food from a grocery store, I would assume that he's spending more on food than the average family person would be, because I assume that it's fast food.
Yeah, he got a settlement. He gets VA disability money. So
15 years.
What? You still get disability money for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you do, because he was honorably medically discharged.
He's got a Purple Heart.
Yes, but we have a lot of soldiers in here that watch us. You tell me if your payouts can support that. I know they can't, because I assume he didn't even do his full term, you guys. So his pay scale, what scale he was on, and I don't have all the names for him, but isn't it like T something 1, 2, 3, whatever, and goes up? He couldn't have been very high on that list. Where's this picture? I bet it tells us what. Hang on. What was his ranking? I don't know enough to know. Is there somebody in here that can tell?
Share the picture.
Can you tell his ranking from this picture, you guys?
He was in what was his position again?
He was in the Army, Airborne.
Yeah.
Army Airborne. I know a little.
82nd.
I know more
Brigade.
about like how the military systems work and their legal system than I do about like the actual setup for soldiers. It doesn't seem like anyone's in here that might be able to know. Does anyone know for sure what his ranking was? Or like you know, put one stripe as private. Okay. So he is private first class. Thank you, YB. So yes. So private first class.
Someone just said he's a sergeant.
I
He's
don't
a private. Someone else said he's a private.
A sergeant is either an NCO or a CO, right? So he would have already had to have had his degree before entering to be a sergeant, from my understanding, since that is a people management position.
Yeah, that picture is from training, wouldn't it be?
I don't know. But someone said sergeant. So you can enter the military as a sergeant if you already have a bachelor's.
He got the Purple Heart because he got blown up by an IED and suffered head trauma and was honorably discharged.
Yeah.
Because he had TBI, traumatic brain injury.
We'll look it up. Does it say in there?
It doesn't say his rank. It says just that he served in the U.S. Army from 2005 to 2009 in the 2nd Battalion, 508th Parachute Infantry, 4th Brigade Combat Team, 82nd Airborne Division. He was awarded the Purple Heart for his service in Operation Enduring Freedom. It doesn't say.
It's not that important, you guys. There's no way he was a sergeant. No way. When he didn't even serve a full 4 years and he didn't have a degree going in. I would be blown away if he was a sergeant. But we'll look into it. We'll look into it for sure, because yeah, he could have been promoted after this picture, absolutely. But this is the picture they use, so I would assume with the annual picture that they do, that it would have been somewhat updated, right? So we'll figure it out. That'll be able to tell me what his pay scale was and give me the rough estimate of his monthly payouts. But that statement they made that he got a large sum of money, listen, 15 years. Like, do you understand the large sum of money he would have had to have gotten?
But how many years did it take him to get that money after he was already out? Because it can take a while.
Not 15 years.
I get that.
The military does not like hold out your money for a decade.
I get that. It shouldn't take that long.
No, yeah, I'm pretty sure they get a payout, and based on whatever happened, which I can dig into it, but I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. Like he could have $1 million payout, $1 million, and that is not going to last 15 years. It's just not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe it. And the amount of money he was spending is absurd. I mean, look at how much La Quinta costs real quick in Moscow. See what it costs per night. 5 days a week. 5 days a week, you guys. Just a rough estimate.
110.
So, yeah, 110.
But the average is 157.
Average 157. So we'll go with the low ball. We'll go with 110. So $110 a night, okay?
That doesn't include
For
all the additional things they tack onto it too.
For 5 days a week, $550 on the lowest end a week, you guys. That is $2,200 a month, you guys. That is not including dope. That is not including the cost of his apartment. That alone, you're looking at over $3,000.
For like what, a week?
I'm thinking $3,000 for just living expensive, not the dope costs.
Dope costs a lot of money.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It is a
lot.
It is a lot.
So it's strange. It makes me wonder where he was getting some money.
So people,
right?
So people want to know, why was he staying at a hotel when he had an apartment?
So according to these individuals, because I don't know. The only thing I have is speculation. But according to these individuals that say they're his friend, he was uncomfortable and or felt unsafe at his own apartment. And they went on to say, well, Brent was Brent. He would just go missing for a few days, and then we'd find out he was staying at a hotel, for 2 or 3 days, sleeping off his PTSD or sleeping off his dope.
They didn't say sleeping off his PTSD.
They said sleeping it off. It is referring to PTSD. Since we're on stream, I'm going to give people a defined answer that they're either talking about PTSD breakdown or dope. Obviously,
yeah, they're talking about dope. So just so you guys know, if you didn't see the premiere, definitely go check it out after this. But it is an interview. If you just hopped on, it's an interview of two people who knew Brent Kopacka and were pretty involved in his life near the end, and for a little bit before that, who were apparently trying to help him out. And they detail what he was going through up until this time, how severe his PTSD was, how he was using meth, and some other interesting things that were mentioned is that he would stay in a hotel because of how uncomfortable he was at his apartment with his two roommates, who we are assuming are gay, because there's some kind of weird situation with him feeling pressured to have sexual relationships with these men, that they were pushing it on him. So he would stay in a hotel, and they said he would disappear for days, and they would find him in like a hotel in Moscow. That he would go stay in hotels in Moscow, and he would also wander the streets at night.
Yeah.
Which is really, really odd. I'm surprised we have heard no other reports of that, of Brent Kopacka, people saying he wandered the streets at night. She even said one night, the woman from the couple, that they found him wandering around their own neighborhood one night. So, and he's using meth. He's having hallucinations from the body cam footage we've seen. JS for Justice had some body cam footage of them talking to him at a hotel, which fits in line with this interview that we just listened to. He was staying at a hotel, and he was just out of it. He thought some man was stalking him, trying to put stuff under his door. And that's how out of it he was. And he was staying in these hotels, and he was roaming the streets and using drugs.
Yep.
So he was not in a good place, which is interesting, because Darren Duncan, who did all these interviews before, that's really the only source we had to know Brent. And now hearing this interview, it paints a bit of a different picture. It really shows you the struggle of what he was going through.
Yeah. So he was already having some mental health issues, right, with the PTSD and TBI, which is really important. That it is so important. I don't want to lose sight from the fact that we need more attention on this topic, you guys. We need our soldiers to be able to come home and deactivate from being, you know, trained killers. This needs to happen. They are signing up and offering their life, their whole being to protect this country. It should be the expectation that we don't stop trying to fix them until they're fixed. All right. Once they come home, they shouldn't come home and still be over there.
Right.
That shouldn't happen. But yes, so as we're looking at this, and like we've been talking about, the hotel stays, even though he had an apartment, the roaming, multiple different pieces of information pop up. All right. And for everyone watching, welcome to the True Crime Talk Show, brought to you by Thought Riot Podcast. Hit that like button and leave a comment under the video. We are talking about this video right here, you guys. This video, you can put a comment under the link that I just posted. Please do. Call to action, my fellow Thought Rioters. It helps us get into the algorithm with YouTube. So even if you're just giving a hello, even if you're just giving a hi, even if you're just giving an emote, we appreciate all of it, and it helps us more than any monetary gains could. Okay. So we've been dealing with you know, watch time bots.
Yeah, we got bots coming after our channel.
Yeah, you can tell when you're watching the viewers, as long as you have a good enough connection that it stays up to date. Usually they pop in at 5s at a time or whatever, but that, you know, YouTube's been on it and they've been filtering people out of our subscribers, which is nice. It's really nice. But anyways, that interaction helps us. It helps us, you guys. So please leave a comment and please leave a like on the video. But okay.
Are you
what?
I wanted to say something. I want to say that it's really interesting to find out that Brent was roaming around at night and that Kohberger did the same thing, kind of, where he was up a lot at night. And, you know, it's also interesting that the only people we've heard from Brent Kopacka has said there's no connection. Brent did not know Bryan Kohberger, period. You need to prove to me that he did, because there's nothing there, you know? Well, you didn't know him for like a decade. Like, you didn't see him for like a decade, and he was out wandering the streets and trying to go to school in Pullman at WSU, where Bryan Kohberger went to school. Like, how do we know they didn't know each other? Even if they did know each other, does that mean there's any connection to the crime? No, not necessarily. But it's just interesting.
Yeah. Did Darren Duncan know his brother that he grew up with, sense all his issues and what he was going through? I mean, that changes an entire person, you guys.
Exactly. And Darren even said Brent never talked to him about people he knew in Pullman. He said he didn't think he really had any friends. Well, we have interviews here from friends of his.
This interview says a big group. We have a big group
of people who were involved in his life.
Well, no, this couple says they have a big group of people they hang out with. And the first time they met Brent Kopacka, they loved him. That's what they said. When I hear big group, okay, I'm thinking what, 10, 15, 20, maybe more people. And we have a super chat in here. Cheryl Higgins says he didn't deserve to die that way. I think the two people we're talking in the interview were doing damage control. Yeah, that's speculative, but I felt that same way. Where it
like in what way?
It made me wonder. But the one thing in that interview that made me feel like it wasn't related to anything like that, or the community couldn't look at it in that way, is that they kind of call out the officers at the end with the whole one-shot thing. That does not look good on the cops. That does not look good on that
was
situation.
a
So
big deal.
yeah, it's a very big deal.
That
But
nobody heard anything that night, you guys, except for one shot. They tried claiming he was had a gun out the window and was popping it off randomly. The people in that area only heard one shot, and that was the shot that killed him. So he was not shooting at anybody, is what I assume. Because why is nobody hear anything?
yeah, and
That's so bizarre. People should have heard things except for the one shot that killed him.
here's another question I have. Why on earth did they not use rubber bullets?
Right. He didn't deserve to die this way. He absolutely did not. And thank you, Cheryl, for sending that very generous super chat.
Yes, thank you very much.
But yeah, I agree with you. He didn't deserve this. It didn't seem like it escalated enough to make it to where they need to use lethal force and take his life.
How it felt is like they're like, oh man, this was going on for so long.
I know. Let's get it over with.
Dinner. Let's just get this over with. Bow. Like what? I'm just blown away, you guys, because I've seen situations where suspects have been, 20 feet away from officers, 20 officers with all their guns pointed at this suspect. This suspect has a gun in their hand, and they still take him down with rubber bullets. Like, why? Why did we not use that here? I don't understand. I just don't get it.
I don't either. They could have done so many different things to try to, take him in like calmly, like or at least maybe not even calmly, like just safely to where he's not dead. Like it's just really weird to me.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't make
and I want to know,
sense.
what does the prosecutor know that we don't know? Because he determined that the officers did the right thing.
Right. And that's a great call out too,
like,
because
what
if
does
there
he know?
was some kind of connection here, okay, and people have
Well,
asked
don't you
this,
want the public to believe that you guys were justified? Like, just saying you were justified in murdering this man does not mean the public's going to believe that. If you want us to believe that, show us why he needed to die.
Yeah,
you need to prove it. I'm sorry.
Sorry, guys, if that was loud. I want to bring up some of the concerns that the community has, because one of the theories out there, right? And I am not co-signing this theory, you guys, but I want to be able to talk about it and or share it. So one of the theories is that is that Brent Kopacka was involved in some way to the Idaho 4 case. I am not saying he was, so do not try and say that I am saying that. I'm also not saying Bryan Kohberger is innocent or is guilty. All right. We don't know any of those things, but the community brings up the questions. If Brent Kopacka was involved in some way with this, maybe it was minor, maybe it was in a big way, maybe it was half of it. He could take half blame or whatever. There were officers there that happened to be military men. Actually, almost all of them are military in that area. And if they think like, oh man, so his life is gone, there's nothing we can do around accountability anyways. So we might as well just keep this under wraps so he can stay a hero, right? That's the big question here is, was there some kind of involvement, and was that involvement, hidden because he wanted to be, or the locals there were trying to do him a favor so he could be remembered as a hero? I've heard that a lot. You guys. It's interesting because going back to why was his phone reset? I think that's a very big question to ask. I don't know. I think there's a couple really good reasons why. I think that in situations where people are hallucinating things that are going on, you could do it yourself, right? Technology, for whatever reason, when people are paranoid, is like the worst thing ever.
What?
The worst thing ever. Technology, when people are paranoid, is the worst thing ever.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, that is normally the key reason for paranoia, or the thing that gets focused on most is like, they're listening to me, they're watching me, they're this, they're that, they're
yeah.
everywhere, and they're
Oh, yeah.
everyone.
I knew a
you
kid.
know? And that could be why Brent Kopacka's phone was reset. But
It could be.
could it also be that they're trying to do a favor to a fellow soldier who just lost his life in a horrible standoff, and they did find some connection? I don't know, you guys. We're never going to have the evidence needed to say one way or the other, but I think they're very good questions.
Would there be a reason to
What?
could it be possible Brent took his own life? And would there be a reason to make it look like it wasn't that? Like, is there any benefit in that?
I mean, he's not married.
Because I can't think of one.
So I know that in law enforcement, you're not going to get the what's it called? The payout. The I forget what it's called that they pay into their whole what's it called? I'm drawing a blank.
401k?
Not 401k. It's called something else.
Um,
But anyways, the reason why I know that is because when I was just recently looking into the case in, what is it, Minnesota or whatever, or I'm sorry, Baltimore. One of the officers is believed to have taken his life, who had some
Pension.
kind of connection. Yeah, pension. Thank you. That had some kind of connection to the gun trace task force, but they did not write it as that, so that the family members could get the pension payouts, because if he ended his own life, then he wouldn't be eligible for that.
well, I was just curious. It could be utter nonsense. I was just curious if there was a benefit to making it look like it wasn't by his own hand.
I'm not
Um,
sure.
But like I haven't, I just curious if
Yeah.
there's a benefit, because I'm not going to think that there's even a possibility if there's no benefit.
Yeah.
I don't think there would be, just because they don't know him. The cops don't know him. Like in the Baltimore situation, they knew that officer and they were just doing the family a favor. This is kind of a different situation considering that Kopacka wasn't like friends with the cops. He wasn't an officer.
Yep. Yep.
So they're not going to stick with him the way they would, one of their own. Though him being in the military usually does gain a lot of respect by police officers.
Yeah. Yeah. What you should go over the connections in with Bryan and Brent. I got to go to the restroom real quick.
What connections?
How they could be connected locally. They went to the same school. They're from the same area. Their apartments in the same area. The possible drug connection that we talked about.
Hey. Hold on. Okay. So yeah, I mean, they lived really close in Pullman. I'm not going to go over like the Pennsylvania stuff, because as far as I've learned so far, they didn't live close to each other on the East Coast. And Brent is originally from Illinois. He's not originally like from that area, as far as I know. But anyway, I mean, I honestly need to look more into Brent's childhood and all the places he lived. But I know that Brent's family lived, like mother lived in the Washington, Idaho area, like not that far away. I know that he was over there in that wait, okay, hold on. Oh, Cheryl, we got another $20 super chat. I was getting confused because I thought it was the old one. If he was involved in the Idaho 4, then they probably needed to shut him up, meaning Ellie shut him up. Oh, hold on. Let me put it on the screen. I need a mouse. Sorry, I'm very unorganized right now. Normally, I have this set up so that if Brendan walks away, I have a way to control the main computer. Okay, there we go. Okay, so if he was involved in the Idaho 4, Ellie would need to shut him up because this case is huge. There has been speculation Ellie is involved as well. SG said people are going to be exposed. I'm super curious what Steve meant by saying people are going to be exposed. At some points, it made me wonder if it was not people that were like roommates and friends to the victims that, or maybe even some victims themselves. People find out things they were up to, and you know that can be really painful to the families. I mean, look, nobody wants to, especially when your loved one has passed away, most people aren't going to want to like hear they did anything that could have contributed to what happened to them, or that they were doing things that were distasteful, or you know, nobody wants to hear that. People, when somebody's passed away, they want to just honor their memory and think everything was like, I don't know, roses and sunshine. They don't like to look at reality sometimes. And I understand it. It's a part of the grieving process. You know, a lot of people go into denial and they don't want to hear things like that. But I understand it. I understand it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But thank you so much, Cheryl, for your super chat. The only thing is I don't know why law enforcement would need to make Brent be quiet if he was involved. Unless you're speculating he's like a hired hand for officers. I will admit, some things in the Banfield and noise complaints, they sketched me out with the officers, but that's one thing. Taking the leap to they're involved is a whole other. Banfield probably sketches me out the most, if I'm being honest, because of their close proximity in plain clothes to a crime scene at the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird. I'm not going to say it's not weird. It is, but it's not proof either that they were involved in any kind of way. And I don't know. That's a hard jump to make. I would need more. I think it's also really odd that the officers that were out that night aren't as in the public eye since then either. This case, I think if they stopped being so secretive, and every time, you know, the community talked about somebody, like, you know, Rosendal's been the center of question a few times. So is Tolson. So is many people. And every time you talk about anybody in this case, all of a sudden they just scrub the internet of everything. And that, I feel like for me, that's suspicious. Why do that? Why not? Like if there were rumors about me, about a crime or something, I wouldn't go hide and scrub the internet. I would do the opposite.
Did you call out?
Because I think that, yes, I did. I mean, oh no, not that one.
Make sure I got them all here. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Hired hand. I don't know the conversation, but I will get caught up.
You just need to read the last super chat and then you'll understand.
So if he was involved in the Idaho 4, then they probably needed.
Hey, AR Hayes, good to see you.
Yeah, because this case is huge and there's been speculation law enforcement is involved, and Steve Gonsalves said people are going to be exposed. That's yeah. Exactly. You're explaining the connection in the true crime community much better than I just explained it, because yes, exactly. That is the connection that a lot of people are drawing. And I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting connection to look at. And I think that it's a fair question to ask. And why do I think it's a fair question to ask? When we look at the average crime in that area, we were told that there has been no deaths, right, in the Moscow area,
Which is
in
not
Moscow,
true.
Idaho. And yeah, it's not true. It's not true. According to their statistics, there hasn't been a homicide. And in Washington, Washington's right there also. And when you look at the potential connection of Washington to Moscow, that a lot of people tend to go back and forth, right? And all of a sudden, you have this horrible situation backed up by this really strange standoff situation, and none of it is given transparency. And when you take transparency away from the public and community, people try making their own connections. Some of those connections don't always make sense. Some of them make too much sense, but all of them bring up questions from people. And I think it's a fair thing to expect. I have advocated and or fought for transparency from day one, right? And I think why it's important is because the judicial systems and all parts of it, including law enforcement, are owned by the people. We've had this conversation a lot of times before. The people own them. They are ours. Okay? They are ours. We own them by our paid tax dollars, and we absolutely can expect transparency. That is well within the expectations of the community and law enforcement. So when that is taken away without an explanation, what do you expect is going to happen, right? What do you expect is going to happen? And unfortunately, I feel like based on everything we've looked into in that area, they've been doing this, keeping away from public certain information for a very long time.
Yeah, I think so too. I wanted to say that Rolo, Mata, Kane, Bees the Purge, and AR Hayes are all
Yes.
3 content creators that are in the chat that support
Yeah.
us, and we appreciate them a ton. So if you guys haven't checked them out, definitely go do that.
Isn't Crafts and Crime too?
I believe they said they're not really making content right now.
Okay.
Not right now. But they have. And we got another super chat from Cheryl.
He might. What?
Oh, did you already highlight it?
He might
Okay.
have relived that night over and over, and he talked too much. I think it's possible. I think it's a very possible question, right? The interesting part is the connections with Moscow.
That was really what, I really was ready to write off the connection with Kopacka until I heard that he was staying in hotel rooms in Moscow and wandering the streets on meth. That's at that point I was like, this kind of sounds like a recipe for a disaster. This is kind of a red flag, especially a soldier who is trained to kill, who has severe PTSD and delusions, and I mean, like severe delusions.
Like
TBI,
they said when they
a
would
brain
go,
injury.
yeah, when they said they would go to the grocery store, they would just be in a checkout line, and he would be like, "Hey, that guy's taking pictures of me over there. Listen, that's severe. That is severe, you guys."
Yeah,
But
it
yeah,
was
go ahead.
really, really bad. So we have the combination of those things, and on top of it, meth, which causes severe psychosis
Yeah.
and delusions and paranoia.
And walking
On top
around
of
in the
it,
middle of the night in the dark. The
yes.
dark, limited visibility, you guys.
So, and he thought people were following him. He thought people were trying to get him. So it makes you wonder, like, could he have, for some reason, thought the 1122 King Road house, somebody was in there that was trying to get him? Like, we don't know. And I want to know, how deeply did the police look into him and ruling him out? Do I think it's plausible he could have planned this with Kohberger? Actually, no, I don't at all. With how gone he was, I don't think that is possible that he could have planned this with Bryan Kohberger. Do I think they could have met each other in passing? Absolutely. They both went to the university. We know Brent was involved in the university somehow. Whether that's a student or what we heard he was security or something else. He was involved in WSU somehow where Bryan Kohberger was a TA. Could they have met? Absolutely. They were living very close to each other.
You're hitting stuff.
I am hitting stuff? Oh, I'm sorry. But him wandering around Moscow at night, high on meth, and being delusional and being a trained killer, like, yeah, that's concerning.
Very concerning.
So how did the cops rule him out? What are the other 3 unknown male DNAs? Now, he is Army. He's not a Marine.
Yeah.
So,
but
like,
he's airborne.
Yeah, but like the K-bar knife sheath was Marine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was known to have a knife collection.
Yep, he was.
Mean, I don't feel like that's objective evidence as to why not. Right? I don't think that because someone was an Army soldier, they wouldn't use a knife that Marines use.
I wanted to bring it up just because I know that will be a thing. People say, well, the K-bar wasn't Army issued, it was Marine.
Yeah.
So does that matter?
I mean, I don't think so.
No, not if you're a knife collector. Yeah.
I don't think it matters anyways. A knife is a knife, and
you can buy them off the internet.
Well, that and also maybe the K-bar is a nicer knife than what you get at
right.
What the Army carries. I don't know, you guys. I don't know. I'm not a knife specialist, you know. I'm really good with knives. I can throw knives like a champion, but I don't know much about them. I don't know what knife is better and what isn't. But I can hit a moving target throwing a knife from 20 feet away.
Cheryl sent a super chat. What about the Facebook picture saying I see you too in the eyeball reflection, and you could see Maddie Murphy in the house and so on?
Yeah,
so
we can get into that.
The eye picture, you know, there were several versions of it that unfortunately people edited to try to make you see things in it.
Yeah.
You said you tracked down the original?
No, I did not say that.
You didn't?
Nope. I never said I tracked down the original.
I happened to find a screenshot of what, now it's a screenshot, like you never know, you guys, but I found a screenshot that includes the like the Facebook, like if you opened it up full on a browser and you know how it pulls up like the caption and the comments to the side, I found a picture of it like that. Oh, that you have it. It's right there.
Yeah, but I don't know if this is clearly not the original because there is this here.
Well, that is supposed to be there.
Yeah, but
you talking about the gold text?
Yeah, so here, I'll share it. Hold on. We have a super show. What about the Facebook
we just read it
saying I see you too in the eyeball reflections. So okay, so let's do this here. Okay, you guys. So why I'm saying this isn't the original, all right? Because I check all of the metadata in pictures. to verify if they are the original or not. This is not the original. Whatever is in this right now cannot be trusted, but this is the picture that is shared, you guys, right here, okay? Why it's not the original? If it was the original, we wouldn't have this here.
What?
We wouldn't have this here.
It's a screenshot.
That makes it not the original.
Right.
Means it could be edited.
Right.
Right. So it's not the original. If it was the original, all you would have was this here. So it's not even worth looking into the metadata.
Yeah, a screenshot. The metadata won't tell you nothing.
Okay. So give a little bit of background story here. This is a picture that was posted by Brent Kopacka. It's weird. It's strange to talk about. Okay, so there is a picture. There is a reflection that you can see in his eye here. Okay. Different people have said different things about what it is. I have no idea what it actually is. I personally have not put a lot of time into it because I don't have the original. If I don't look into pictures and dissect them and put them through my softwares if I don't have the original. There's no telling what's going to be in here. But Brent Kopacka posted this and on his Facebook with "I see you too."
Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. What does that mean? And I don't think that we're going to be able to get a good explanation as to what it means because he had PTSD because he was unfortunately self-medicating with methamphetamines because he had TBI and
PTSD.
Those yeah, I said that at first.
Oh, you did?
Those three things paired together, there isn't going to be reason. Not everything is going to make sense. It's not going to be logical, right? I have no idea. I know in the original that somebody has claimed is the original. I mean, it's pretty clear this is a phone, right? This looks like an iPhone with a white face. I have no idea about anything else in here, you guys.
I see his
know what it
hands
shows.
and the phone. I think I see two chairs. The only thing is I see two black chairs is what it looks like almost like facing each other or something, but I can't tell what the blue thing is.
Yeah.
The blue thing, like, I have no idea what that could be.
Yeah. I have no clue.
Like, is it a pool?
I have no clue. But a lot of people in the community have looked into this picture to try and draw some connection. Whereas if Brent Kopacka was involved, is this a tip? Is this a suggestion trying to let people know? I don't know, you guys. I have no idea. I have no idea. And I don't think, even if we did see something in here, that it is good enough evidence to use to suggest or investigate a potential story, if I'm being honest.
No, I don't think so either.
This picture goes down the same route as the food truck video and Linda Lane. There's too many variables. There is not enough information. There is too much going on. It could never be used in a court case, unfortunately. So while we can look into these things, nothing will ever be taken from them that will be usable.
No way. And I don't think he actually took a picture of his eye to show the reflection to give everyone a clue. Like, if anything, he was in a paranoid delusion that he wanted somebody who probably doesn't even exist to know he was seeing them too. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that's
It's some
a
weird
very
cryptic,
likely.
paranoid, like, delusional stuff right there is what that looks like to me.
Yes. Yep.
Like drug-induced psychosis looking stuff.
The more interesting story, in my opinion, you guys, is look, this case has a ton of attention on it. A ton of attention on it. Attention that isn't benefiting the prosecution. It's not benefiting the investigators and police involved. It is not even benefiting the defense at the moment. So, in my opinion, it's more interesting to consider the fact that we could have false information put out there in the community for the community to take interest in and take hold of as a red herring. I think that is a much more interesting conversation when I'm looking at the case. Because red herrings keep you from looking at the actual important objective facts and evidence of the case at hand. Could this be something like that? How easy would it be for somebody to post a picture of their eye? Eyes are incredible. Everyone has always been obsessed with the human eyeball. No eyeball is the same. They're all different. It's like a fingerprint. Eyes are really interesting. He could have just been posting a picture of an eye because he likes his eye, even. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, you
But
could just think it looks cool.
yeah, how easy would it be for somebody to come out into the community and start saying, hey, oh my gosh, there's a part of the crime in there. Oh, on this form. Oh my gosh, you can see something from the Idaho 4 case. Oh my gosh, you can see, you know what I mean? And flood these social medias and forums with this question and idea. And then it's off and running,
Right.
I think that's a much more interesting question personally, just because that is a tactic that would work.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it used in cases all the time. I mean, what's his name? Scott Peterson. Scott Peterson has had a team hired for years that has been doing this in the true crime community. And look, the Scott Peterson case is being picked up by by an organization to retry the case. They even have a website. Like, these things work. There is lots of evidence out there.
What's the date it says this was posted?
Oh, I don't know. Let's
This
see.
eyeball picture.
December 6th of 2022.
And he lost his life December 15th, correct? Now, we do know that, okay, so that's, how many days is that? That's 9 days. 9 days. He posted this 9 days before he lost his life, which was a little over a week. We do know that he told the husband and wife couple that, and thanks for bringing this up, Crafts and Crime, that he thought he was going to be ended by police.
Mm-hmm.
Why did he think that? And was this picture part of whatever was going on with him to where he thought he was going to be ended by police? I mean, that's what he told this couple.
Mm-hmm.
It was in their interview that they told police. And again, if you guys are just hopping on here, we did a premiere before this where we played our audio from two friends of Brent Kopacka's before he passed away, who actually were in his life, in this time period before his death, and knew what was going on with him. And they really describe his mental state and what he was struggling with in his last days. And it's really, really fascinating and interesting, and provides a lot of insight. We're posting it in the chat. You guys need to go listen to it if you haven't. It's sad. It's really sad. But anyway, moving on. He did say in that, to that couple, that he thought he was going to be ended by police. And literally a few days later, he was. How weird is that?
Mm-hmm.
Why did he think that? And they were commending police, saying, oh, you guys really did the right thing, which is odd. But I'm sure they didn't know all the facts of the case yet. They didn't understand at all, I'm sure, other than they only heard one shot, which is odd.
Well, it's not only one shot. They said that the entire community didn't know that you guys were up there at those apartments, and we were told that they were up there for 8 hours.
Yeah.
8 hours. And my big
SWAT
question
team
is, why
flying drones and throwing what, smoke bombs and things?
Yeah, why didn't they have a megaphone out? Why didn't they have roadblocks up? If
And
somebody
supposedly he was
shooting a gun, what, you're supposed to protect the community. It's really a strange situation. And then to go on and say that the entire local community only heard one shot. One shot.
Yeah, the whole community only heard one shot. But supposedly he was shooting everywhere.
And then he said, the cop said, maybe it could be the elevation.
No, that makes no sense.
I mean, maybe. I need to look into the science. I don't know. But elevation could change how sound travels. And if they're way down a hill and the elevation goes up really drastically in one area, it could reduce the possibility of that sound traveling down to that area. But still, what's interesting is they heard the one shot. Therefore,
that's what I'm saying,
that they would have heard the other shot.
That's what I'm trying to say. That if Brent was shooting like they claim he was, then why did nobody hear those and only hear the sniper shot? There's no body cam footage of Brent Kopacka. There's no body cam footage of Brent Kopacka shooting or any gunshots other than the sniper shot.
We have like 18 pieces of evidence from the FOIA, and none of it has that. None of it.
It just makes no sense. And nothing we've seen any other content creators who got stuff from FOIAs shows anything. So it just doesn't make any sense at all. And to learn that his phone was wiped, to learn that they never called back his friend to talk to him, that they didn't go through all the steps of de-escalation. It's just really weird.
The whole thing is really strange. Because look, if you're trying to protect a community and you're saying that like it's right down the road, could right down the road, right down the road for somebody who lives in downtown LA is understandably different for somebody who lives out where houses are spread
right down the road
apart. But she claims that, the community right down the road from where Brent Kopacka lived, didn't hear anything. She even says, the gas station on the corner didn't hear anything. Nobody knew. And then she proceeds to say that we knew right away. As soon as we heard the statement made that this happened, we knew it was Brent Kopacka. I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting situation. I don't quite understand how you can have an 8-hour standoff with nobody in the area knowing.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
It's strange.
Yeah, it's were people
really strange.
I think there's some people talking about a training exercise, that people thought it was a training exercise. I don't know all the details of all of that, but I have heard that going around, or that they had a training exercise that morning. We're supposed to. It's very mysterious, though, and I don't like how mysterious it is, considering the prosecutors come out and said that, the cops' actions were justified. Like, show us why they were justified, because it still feels extremely secretive, despite the investigation being closed and the public able to make FOIA requests, and the prosecutor coming out and saying there was no harm, like no foul play, like the cop did everything right. Why and how? Because it doesn't appear that way. It just feels super shady. And I think that somebody should answer some questions, because I don't think it's fair to the public. he was a veteran, you know, like what he was going through was his sacrifice for the country.
Yeah, I don't think it's okay either. And that's why that's why I wonder if the real story might not come out because they feel like they are, you know, doing a favor
I don't know.
to him as a fellow soldier. I don't know either. But I do want to give a shout out. I meant to do this in the beginning, and shame on me for not doing it. I want to give a shout out to the Reddit forum here, which has been absolutely amazing. One of the most amazing resources for the Idaho 4 around conversation, around asking questions, around looking at things from an objective point of view. It is subreddit Bryan Kohberger Moscow. And it's just an incredible forum that is managed and or handled much better than some other subreddits out there. I'm not going to name them. I'm not willing to give them that. I just mean many, not even in relation to Idaho 4. I mean, many, right? Reddit is known for being an echo chamber. I don't get that here in this subreddit. So for anyone interested in the Idaho 4 case, this is a really, really, really good sub here, you guys. But yeah, so as I look at pictures of the Brent Kopacka standoff, it's interesting. It's interesting, you guys. It's not what I would expect to see either. But you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We have all the body cam footage of the situation, right? Or do I need to do more FOIA requests?
I think there is a couple out there that I've seen that we don't have. But I mean, maybe if there's something interesting on it, I don't know why.
I was just curious.
But yeah, we got a lot of information from it. And I'm more interested in the questions of the community. I don't think it's even a question that he was mistreated in this situation. I understand the prosecutor. I understand they have came out clearing the officer of a fair and just shooting. I understand that. But with the evidence that we have right now, this evidence right now that we have, I don't feel like that was the right call.
I don't either. So we have a question. Do you believe it's possible they could have edited out the Brent's voice and only left in the cops? Like, is that a thing I don't know. I've never seen that done in body cam footage.
I mean,
Has anyone else? You could tell?
Oh yeah, I can tell. Absolutely. Any edits can be seen. If you have the raw footage, the only time an edit can't be seen is if it's recorded over a recording and then submitted, but you can still tell it's a recording. Like you can tell that it's not the original.
That would be interesting if they only took out his voice. It'd take quite a bit of time to go through all that body cam footage and make sure his voice isn't in it anywhere.
No, Oh, you mean the full 8 hours?
Yes.
Oh,
Brent Kopacka, making sure his voice isn't in it.
Yeah, yeah. I think I got a couple files, like audio files that are like 24 hours worth of audio from that situation. Yeah, I don't think it's fair. I don't think
either.
this situation is fair. I feel like they should have like what I would have liked to see in this situation, going back to focusing on our soldiers is for somebody like this that's dealing with PTSD or TBI in such a severity where they aren't even able to live a normal standard life. Look, set up a few hotels. You know, every major city has abandoned hotels, you guys, and I've seen this set up before. Why is our government not buying some of these randomly across the US and telling these soldiers that are asking for help, yeah, we got a room for you. We got to get you transported over here where you can be with other soldiers who are going through recovery in the same way. And you guys will, once you get to a point in your life in recovery, we'll be able to move you out to a normal life. And it shouldn't cost anything, in my opinion. It should not cost anything. That's what I think should happen.
Yeah. I think taking care of our veterans is like really, really, really important. And it's something our government has and the military have been slacking on for a really long time.
Well, this is a prime example of what could happen when you create a natural, dangerous person.
And Brent, I think,
soldier.
was a really good person. I don't think
based off what
everything we've heard about him, he was a wonderful person, a really, really caring, generous person. But he was trained to kill. He was a soldier who had significant trauma and issues and was very out of it, and unfortunately was on drugs trying to cope with that and struggling. And that can create a really dangerous situation.
Yeah, you know what was interesting? So one thing that I've had a very hard time not wondering if there's a connection to is Brent Kopacka was, from their own admission in this interview, said that he would stay at hotels, specifically said that he would stay at hotels in Moscow at the La Quinta, and specifically said that he would go out walking at night, late at night, all night, just walking. Okay. Well, there was a situation that a police report was made that somebody had pulled out a knife on students and was threatening students walking.
Yep. And that was only a few weeks, right, before the Idaho Fort crime. One of the reporters in I think it was the very first press conference, is actually brought that up and said, "Is there any chance these two situations could be connected?" And Chief Riot was very quick to shut it down, as they're very quick to shut down anything that they think that people are asking, "Could this be connected?" And they're like, no.
Yeah, according to...
Not going to tell you why, but no.
Right. According to them, there's no connection to anything at all, period, with the Idaho 4 case.
Not Buddy the dog, who was a month before, or the bunny, who were mutilated brutally and pieces of them taken with the killer. Not the car, the exact car you guys said you were looking for, found abandoned in another state, like nothing.
Yeah.
Not
really
the
strange.
I mean, come on.
It's really strange. It's really, really, really
There's some things
strange
that seem like they should have been looked into more, is all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I agree. Just saying something's not connected, in my opinion, isn't transparency enough, right? It would be much more trustworthy for law enforcement to say, no, that's not connected, because we found out who that person was and verified their whereabouts for the night of the crime. They actually weren't in the area. But thank you for asking, right?
So it looks like the La Quinta is about a 2.3 mile walk from 1122 King Road.
Okay.
2.3 miles.
Interesting.
Yeah, but if you were like going out for a walk, it would actually make a ton of sense to like go walk from the La Quinta down to like the university area, because there's like, I don't know, there's usually around colleges, there's a lot of good walking areas, you know, like they'll have little trails through little nature areas. They have an arbitorium, they have the golf course, like there's a bunch of greenery in that area. There's a lot to look at. So it would actually make sense to go walking down there.
Yeah.
Not to mention, like, you know, you could be picking up in that area too.
Yeah, absolutely. And for everybody watching, we appreciate you. You guys are all absolutely incredible. Hit that like button, please, and leave a comment under this video as soon as it's done. Even if you're just saying hello, hi, leaving an emote, anything, because it helps out the show more than I could ever explain to you. It helps out a ton. It combats some of the issues we're dealing with right now. So really, it's more like, you know, a call to action to help out the Thought Riot podcast. And we appreciate you and thank you ahead of time, you guys. You are all amazing. And, you know, every month we are increasing in overall views and overall everything across the board. Subs, one of the best months we've ever had by far. And it's all because of you guys. We just posted the members link to join as a member. There are members videos that only members can see out there. We have a deep dive into Elliot Rodger and why there was a connection to Elliot Rodger and Bryan Kohberger. We also have members only lives that are on there that we do at the end of these live, the true crime talk shows, where we just talk in there and get more personal, answer questions directly that the viewer, you guys, thought writers have. And honestly, it's a great time. It is a really, really, really good time. So if you guys aren't in there or haven't been, you're missing out, and we want you to be in there.
Yes. And I want to close this out by saying, once again, if you guys have not checked out the premiere of the interview with the friends of Brent Kopacka, definitely go check it out. It's our most recent video. It is, are you posting it? Oh no, you're posting Discord link.
Yep.
I think it's important to listen to. It really gives you a lot of insight. We're about to switch over to the members, but I think it's really interesting. And we are in no way accusing Brent Kopacka of being involved in the crime. I think his memory should be honored. I think that nobody should start throwing out accusations without any evidence. We're merely only bringing up.
We're just asking questions.
The facts, okay, the looking at the evidence that is there and asking questions. And we also really want to bring awareness to what Brent Kopacka was going through and many other veterans in the country that need help. They need access to a lot more. Like they're severely neglected after they get out of the service and are still dealing with all the memories of what they went through, and PTSD, and in some cases injuries, you know, and they can't go back to normal. They need help. We need better, like, we need a better transition process back to real life. And to address any harm, anything that's, you know, possibly going to stop them from being able to reacclimate. Like, there needs to be like assessments when soldiers are coming back into civilian life. That's how I see it. There needs to be some kind of process that's better, that's more effective, that gives them more resources. But that's all I wanted to say. And members, please hop over so we can have a chat and hang out.
Yes.
And thank you all for being here tonight. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you all. And remember, hit that like button, leave a comment under this video as soon as we hit end stream. And we appreciate you, every single one of you. If you have questions, if you have ideas, if you have thought riots, please share them below. And we will see you next time. And tomorrow we are going to go through, well, I'll leave that secret. All right, you guys. See you next time.
Bye. Have a good night.